Today we're going to be cutting a 69-pound tuna H&G straight out of Hawaii. First thing you got to do is get all the ice and anything out of the belly, spray it out real good. As we're doing this, I'm going to mention a little disclaimer. I haven't cut this fish in about 3 years, and tuna is probably the hardest fish in the world to cut, especially when you haven't done it in a while or it's your very first time doing it. It's not my first time doing it. So if you ever have to cut this fish in the future, just please be careful. Take your time, do your research, watch this video, re-watch this video, whatever you gotta do to get it right. I personally like scrubbing large fish like this simply because they contain a lot of heavy metals. And you gotta scrub, under the armpit, belly, back, both sides. After you're done, you spray it off real good. Sometimes these fish can be a little smelly and old by the time they get to you, so you just gotta do your best to clean it off real good. Now when you go to cut the collarbone off, face the belly towards you, stab the armpit, cut down through the throat, all the way down to where the fins are, back up there, and then over the top part of the collar where the top part of the meat is. Flip it over, do the same thing, but backwards. Come on! Now when you get to this part, you'll want to use a serrated knife just to cut through the bones, but I didn't have one, so I just hacked it off. It's easy for me. I still wouldn't recommend it if you're not very good with a knife. Alright, now flip it over. Basically stick your knife inside of the booty hole and cut up the belly. Make sure it all cuts even. Then you're gonna want to backwards cut it, starting from where the booty hole was down to the tail. Make sure the tail is completely released. Now I did make a mistake here. You're only supposed to backwards cut it here, not cut up the belly too. That part I saved for later. I should save for later, but I didn't. Like I said, this is my first time cutting this in a very long time, so a little bit of trial and error, but still do it better than about 90% of the population, I'd say. Now this is the hardest part in my opinion, is getting around this cartilage that's right above the dorsal fin up here, or the spines, whatever those are. You can't really cut through it normally. This is another thing you can use a serrated knife for, but it's not really required. I personally just like to cut it off completely. Some people like to keep it there as a handle. I find it to be cumbersome and just annoying to deal with. Plus you can't eat it. I mean, you can maybe try and use it in some leather making. Just have to adjust the camera there for a second. Now you want to start from the tail, cut up the back. It looks like I'm doing a sawing motion, but it's not. It's more like a pull and glide. It's not actually like a serrated knife. Just be careful with doing this because you can cut through the fish and ruin the other side of the fish before you get started on it. So be very careful when you're doing this. Touch your knife to the spine, run it all the way down, make sure you got all that stuff released. And I also made another mistake here. I'm supposed to start on the top loin. I started on the bottom side. You can do it either way, but I actually prefer to do it the other way. Like I said, I haven't done this in a while. Alright, and then when you get down to the spine, make sure your knife is parallel. Then follow the line all the way down the back. Make sure you keep the line as straight as you can. Don't worry about that other side part. Making sure this is all the way connected. Like I said, I did the wrong side. I did screw up here a little bit. You'll see that in the final product later. I do show you how to fix it. It's not difficult. And again, I should have started on the other side because doing this side is easier when there's no loin on the top side, because you can bend that other loin back and you don't have to worry about lifting loins up like this at all. Cut's a little rough, but it's not too bad. None of that meat went to waste. Then you want to trim the rib cage off. This is very kind of an awkward one to do because of how much it curves. Don't try and make it in one swoop, just curve around the edges of it. Just be easy and don't pull too hard. Trim the belly off. Trim that nasty little bit at the end. I have a stutter, by the way. Nasty little bit right there. I know it looks like a lot, but the meat didn't look very good on that little bend. Make sure you get all the stray pieces off. Trim those center bones out. Whenever you're trimming tuna, try to run your knife from head to tail in that direction, because of which way the grain runs, and the fish doesn't want to really stay together too well. Unlike some fish where you can throw it up against the wall and it's not going to do anything to it. Smooth out the rough edges on it. Looks good to me. Go on the next one. Wash your table in between because this gets pretty bloody pretty quick. Throw the scraps away. Eyes off. So the other side. This side's easier. Finish off cutting the tail. Make sure all that stuff is cut and released. Finish the last bit and rolls right off. This side looks a lot better. That's how I wanted it to look every time. You see me wiping the fillet like this, that's just trying to get all the bits and pieces off, because you're going to have that sometimes. Still run it from head to tail. I'm doing it backwards here because I'm dumb. Take the center bones out. Again, I'm doing it backwards. That's just because of how I trim. I'll explain that in another video. This side was a little bit harder to get off, but that's okay. Finally, you wiped it the right way. Yeah, looks good. Turn around, make sure it look all cleaned up a little bit. And cut a little bit off there. Come on! Cut a little bit of tail off. You don't really need that. And next one. Chopping the tail off makes it a little bit easier, and that's what I'm going to do next here. Just find the little separation between the vertebrae. You can use whatever knife for this. Go right through it pretty much. Toss that. Now you have a clear line to get straight through to the spine. Cut through the cartilage again. This side's a little bit more of a pain in the ass for me. I'm not too sure why. But yeah. Just cut through it and cut it off again. Same thing as the other side. It looks a little messy, but you're not eating it anyway, so it's okay. See, I turn the fish around because it's easier for me to do stuff like this. I don't know why, but it always has been. I need to fix that. I'm still not perfect. Sorry about the wonky camera angle. I'm going to fix it a little bit. Alright, start under the anal fin again. This side's kind of hard to do because you don't have very much pressing down on the fish and holding it. So you just got to do the best you can, get all the way up into the bone. This little bit right here is probably the hardest part on this side. It's getting through the rib cage without accidentally cutting through the belly meat and part of the bottom, part of the top loin. But this came out good. Turn it around again. Start on the tail. I start on the tail because that's the thinnest part of the skin, and you can get a pretty good ways through the fish without having to work too hard. This little bit I had some trouble with because the bones kept sticking out. It's because I wasn't trying to cut around them. I was just trying to cut through them because I wanted to get it done. When I was doing this, I wasn't on the clock, so I wasn't being paid to do work. I was just doing work. I will never do that again. I will only stay clocked in for this. Make sure you're cut all the way back to the spine, and then flip the fish back over. Now I should have started on the other side for this, but this is fine too. The knife doesn't go through the scales as well this way, but it's the same thing as the other side. You just follow the line, cut right up the middle. This is how I should have done the first side. Top loin first. That's not too bad. Alright, trim the excess bone and stuff off. Make it look as pretty as it can get. I cut that little bit of meat off at the end just because the meat split a little bit. Stuff on the sides just so it's got nice clean lines to it. Last little bit of center bone that I missed. Trim the tail, and that one's done. Alright, last loin. This part's not difficult. You're really just working with a lot of bone here. Since you've already got the other side cut off, you don't have to really worry about cutting the other side a whole lot, to be honest with you. See how easy that comes off? And flip it. There's a little bit of meat left on that carcass, but yeah, I think it looks like shit, but it's really not that bad.
I did fuck up part of this, but it's not a big deal.
Now I trim the rib cage off on this side. It's a little awkward, just like the other side. The whole loin, I gotta turn it around just so I can get under this, and then you gotta curve around the bones.
Like this right here, I fucked that up, but I can fix that.
Make sure it's nice and smooth. I'll fix this. Get the center bones off. I did it backwards. Meat's moving like that because there's too much resistance against the knife. It's because I'm moving it backwards. Also, my knife kept slipping off, and that's another reason why you go from head to tail, not tail to head. There's a little piece hanging off there. Yeah, my knife still slips off of it. on this is really tough, so this happens sometimes. Now I can fix this. Take the skin knife and curve it out. And that's how you cut tuna.